All right. Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and the world's first raid race is upon us, and a lot of you will be jumping into that raid race, and some of you may be going for world's first, or you might just be trying to go for the 24-hour emblem, because it do be looking pretty good. I got the belt up there for those of you out there who are going for that world's first. Best of luck to you. Now, in today's video, I'm going to go over the top 10 weapons that I believe, and me and my teammates talked about this a bunch. We sat and debated over all the weapons that we think belong in the raid race. Weapons that you should definitely take with you, and you should encourage your teammates to bring with you as well. Feel free to bring other weapons along with this. I tried to limit it to just 10, and I did sort of break the boundaries a little bit and go to like 13, but a couple of those weapons are just very situational. They're not like actual weapons I think you'll use, but these are 10 weapons that I genuinely believe I will use in the raid race. And to give you a little bit of background, I've gotten the 24-hour emblem of every single raid. I mean, my emblem right here is the Garden of Salvation one, which is one that literally less than 100 teams in the world got this one. That's why I always rock this one. But I have a lot of experience in this, and I want to bring this video to y'all because I know so many of you out there are either going to try for World's First, or you're going to try to beat it in the 24-hour because that emblem looks really good. Or in general, you might just try to beat it afterwards, and these weapons will obviously be very, very helpful. So I'm going to go over 10 weapons, technically 11 with two situational weapons. The first one will be the Osteo Striga. This thing is just insane damage overall. It's like having a machine gun. They buffed exotic primary ammo weapons, so using the Osteo is nuts. The toxic overload, and with the catalyst, you can get a huge magazine to this. So it is literally like a machine gun in its magazine size and its damage output. You definitely want to use this, and you probably don't want to use a machine gun for any situation possible. I don't like to throw too much shade or too much hate onto certain weapons, but machine guns are in a pretty bad place in the sandbox right now overall. And even though they do have a place for ad clear, because of the recent exotic primary ammo weapon buff, it seems like you should just use those for ad clear if I'm being completely honest. So Osteo is definitely up there, and this is in no particular order, but we'll also go over the ignition code if you have one of these roles. You've got the slide shot, blinding grenades. I've used this so many times. It's kind of like my main go-to weapon when I'm doing challenging end game activities, because hordes and piles of enemies come at you, and you can blind the majority of them. You can't blind bosses, you can't blind champions, but you can blind good, like anything that's like red bar, yellow bars usually can get blinded, and it just helps so much to blind enemies, so that way you can recover, you get a moment to breathe, or if you blind them, your teammates can shoot them and they don't have to risk getting shot. Oftentimes, like with contest mode, you're going to be 20 power under, and that means that most things are going to kill you with like 2-3 bullets. And so blinding enemies is really, really helpful and advantageous. The Wither Horde, I mean, most of you, I don't really have to talk about this, most of you know how good this is. It's a real workhorse. You can shoot it, it does damage over time, you swap off of it, it auto loads, you clear the ads with your energy weapon primary. Wither Horde is a real workhorse, and I'm sure this will have some great application in the raid. Izzy combined with Rocket is one of the best burst DPS, so you probably want to either do that or have that. This will be sort of an alternative exotic. Not everyone is used to that, using Izzy with the Rocket, but that is definitely one that's up there. Along with that, one that's maybe a little more easier to use is a Succession. I've talked about this god roll many times, the Reconstruction Vorpal Mag perk. Succession, this thing gets a huge magazine and has really good burst DPS because you don't have to reload because it has such a big magazine. This will probably be a staple with completing a certain encounter if there's like distance necessary. A very strong roll in that weapon. Again, not everyone has this, so if you don't have these exact weapons, don't feel bad or feel like you can't beat the raid. You definitely can. Just stick to what you do have. If you have the Osteo, perfect. Use that and create your build around that. If you don't have Osteo, maybe you didn't, pre-order the digital deluxe or whatever. If you got Wither Horde, start with that, or Ignition Code, Succession, whatever it is that you do have, start there. But those would be the 4 I would highly recommend in the kinetic slot. The Izanagi as a side one as well, but it's still really powerful and definitely worth using that with rockets. So moving on to the energy slot now, we're going to go over the Truth Teller. We've got the auto loading blinding. This is going to function very similarly to the ignition code, except it has auto loading instead of slide shot. So it's not quite as strong, but it has that combination of, you shoot it, you blind the enemies, you swap to your kinetic weapon, and you clear the ads really well. If you were to use these two together, the synergy would be amazing, right? And moving on to the next one, we got the funnel web. This is, of course, something that needs to be brought up because with current void builds, this thing's so strong. I'm not going to go over an entire funnel web void build right here, but if you know, and you could definitely use this. for a variety of different situations in the raid. Now this is another alternative weapon, an energy slot, which is Divinity, which I would say is for stunning any overloads if there are overloads, or oftentimes if bosses have small crits, you'll use the Divinity to enlarge the crit and make it so you can hit those shots. It's a very, very helpful exotic, something that often comes in handy when doing challenging end game activities. So have a Divinity on your character maybe, or at least have a couple people on your team have it to be able to alternatively swap to it. And then this bow right here is actually really, really good. This is not the roll that you want to look for. The real roll you want to look for is it has an adaptive munitions perk, which is a new perk, and it basically makes it so you can break all shield types. It's in this slot right here rather. And I don't have that roll, but if you do have that under your skin roll, if you're able to craft it, or if you got really fortunate enough to get lucky and get that roll to drop, then definitely could be worth your time. Using something at range like a scout or a bow is always really effective in end-game activities because enemies can't shoot you quite as much, and the ability to break all the different shield types with that adaptive munitions sounds really sick, and I kind of wish I had that bow. Eventually I'll get it though. So that's going to cut it for the kinetic and the energy slot. Now we'll go down to the power slot. Reed's Regret just has amazing overall damage output. You can fire so many shots. You get free ammo because of triple tap. It has firing line, which is a massive damage boost. I know a lot of people are accustomed to playing from last season, and we don't have the particle deconstruction anymore, but that doesn't mean that Reed's Regret is bad by any means. This is amazingly good overall DPS, and if the damage phase is long, this might be very well the best weapon to use in certain situations. Reed's Regret is definitely a weapon you should bring in there. Gjallarhorn, I mean, I don't think I need to say too much about this weapon. This thing's insane. You use it, you have one person on your team have it, the rest of you guys can use legendary rockets, and keep in mind that the legendary rockets that pair the best with these are lasting impression rockets, so keep that in mind. You want to have a lasting impression rocket when using this. It works better than the other rocket mods that you can get, so keep that in mind. We've got those two out of the way, and then the Tomorrow's Answer is an overall, we're going with an auto-loading lasting impression rocket, because we could go with a clown cartridge route, but burst DPS is not really what's necessary as much in these challenging activities when you're under-leveled. Mostly you just want more like sustained DPS, and you're going to have to do a variety of different phases. You're not trying to one-phase any particular boss, usually in challenging activities like day one raids and stuff, so keep that in mind. I think the auto-loading lasting impression rockets will do you more than the majority of the other legendary rockets. And of course, pair those with, one person on your team with Gjallarhorn, or multiple. I would say at minimum at least one. But the more lasting impression rockets, the better overall damage output you'll have. If you had 5 of these in one Gjallarhorn, that'd be the best. So keep that in mind. And then I did throw in just a sword for like jumping puzzle. This isn't like something you really use for damage, but this is for like the jumping puzzle or for moving fast from one activity to another. We got the Eager Edge on there and stuff like that. So that's just sort of a add-on, but these are the 3 big power weapons that I would definitely recommend to bring with you. And there are definitely others you can use out there. And if you have ones that are similar, like for example, there's other linear fusions that do very comparable things to the Reed's Regret, other rockets that have the exact same role with auto-loading lasting impressions. So don't feel like it has to be the Tomorrow's Answer by any means. Just keep that in mind that you can use a variety of different things, but these are definitely like top 10 meta weapons in the Witch Queen, and certainly I would believe that out of the 6 Guardians that go through and do get World's First, I would be willing to bet that the majority of them will be using either these exact weapons or some sort of variation of these weapons, very close variations of these weapons. So only time will tell though. Could be wrong, could be off by a few little things, but overall I think that this is a really, really strong representation of the current meta. And best of luck to you out there in your efforts to either get World's First, get the 24-hour emblem, or just beat the raid. Have fun with it, and that's a wrap on this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, smash the like button. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.